Speaker. Okay. So glad you're here. Get to talk about the cleanse. I have some things written down on what I want to talk about. So one, I want to talk about how it works just in general. So hang on, let me get my view here. Sorry. Okay, now I can see myself. Okay, so first let's just talk about how it works in general. So for the cleanse, basically the first week, we're starting one meal a day. And it sounds a little daunting, like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be eating. But you can drink or have any liquids as much as you want. So liquids can be fresh juices, not like juices, store-bought juices, unless it's suja. I'll go a little more into that. So juicing on your own, have as much of that as you want. Obviously water, coconut water. You can even do bone broth. So I know it's cold this time of year. So a lot of times you want something warm. So bone broth is okay. Drinking that is like a tea or something. Obviously tea is good. Tea is great actually, because you're using herbs, basically it's plants. And so it's a good way to get extra nutrients by drinking tea. Smoothies are okay. So you can make any kind of smoothies, fruit smoothies, matcha smoothies. You can put, the nice thing with smoothies is you can put all kinds of stuff in there. So it really boosts your nutrition. So then the second week, we take that meal away and we're just liquids. So now why are we doing that? And the main reason is nutrients. So we want to boost our body with nutrients and not digest. So when you're eating meals, so the other important part of this is there's no snacking on food. So no handful of nuts, no piece of fruit, anything like that. You can have a smoothie, you can have juice, you can have bone broth, you can have blended soups, anything liquid. And the reason why is because when you're having liquids, you're just absorbing. You're not digesting. So a smoothie essentially is already broken down. It's already digested because it's blended. And so when you drink that smoothie, you're just absorbing all of those nutrients. Same with juice. There's not very much fiber. There's some soluble fiber in there, but no insoluble fiber. And so you're just absorbing. And so why this is so important is because when you're digesting, when you're constantly eating, even if it's a small snack, even if it's healthy, it's putting energy toward digestion. And when you're digesting all the time, the body is not able to repair, recycle, and build itself essentially. And that's part of what cleansing is not just not eating food, which we're not going to be eating a lot of food you can eat and chew. We're just going to be having food as nutrients, food that is just going to be absorbed. So that's the important part. The other part of it is learning how to find your habits. So what'll happen is you will get hungry. And what'll happen is your body will start to, your stomach will growl a little bit. And it's usually at certain times when you normally eat, because we develop habits of when we eat every day. And your body remembers that. So if you normally eat around 2 p.m., guess what? Around 2 p.m., you're going to get those little hunger pains and your body's going to be like, ooh, some food's coming. I can't wait to eat. And so it doesn't necessarily mean you're hungry. These are the times that I recommend having tea. Tea is really good because there's usually some tannins in there. So tea is herbs, usually, fruits too. So I recommend, I'm sure most of you in the pantry have some nice teas that you've been letting sit there for a special occasion. This is the time where you go through the cupboard and you start going through your teas. So tea, all kinds of teas. Now, tea is a whole other separate conversation. I recommend just starting with what you have. If you don't have anything, obviously tea bags are kind of going to be the most efficient, right? I like loose leaf, but I have a tea maker that I can do loose leaf in. If you don't have that, it makes it harder. So, but just make sure if you are going to buy tea, make sure the tea bags aren't bleached. Make sure the tea is organic. Because again, you are steeping the leaves of whatever tea that is. So if it's been sprayed with pesticides, you're basically absorbing all of that pesticide in there. So, yes, bergamot. Bergamot is great. Bergamot's really good for the heart too. It's kind of that orangey plant oil. Bergamot is great. So for me, I have all kinds of teas. I like dragon herbs, but I like everything from dragon herbs. So I do Gynostema, I do Hashi Wu. I get real, so when I do these cleanses, I get real deep into the Chinese herbs. I get like super crazy. This is like for me, the cleanse. So I eat pretty well normally, but when I do these cleanses, for me, it's a time to really dial it in. So it's not for me to pull things out. It's more of a time for me to really pile in nutrients. This is when I get real focused on, okay, I'm going to make, so what I'll do is I'll make some teas, put them in mason jars and stick them in the fridge. That way, if I get a little hungry, or because the other part of this is when you're cleansing and you're only having one meal a day, drinking a lot of water, a lot of fluid. So sometimes, you know, too much water, it's like you just want something else. So tea is really great. And again, tea also cuts your cravings for food. So if you feel like, you know, I'm hungry, I need something, but you know you're not hungry, like if a smoothie doesn't sound good, then you're not hungry. Tea can usually take that away. Another thing really helpful if you're having hunger cravings and you just need to get through whatever point because you're just feeling hungry, like you need food, but you know you don't, it's just in, you know, in your head, inversions. So simply bending over, having your head below your heart, or doing a downward dog. Or sometimes what I do is go into a door jamb and I'll put my head down and my spine up against the door and then walk my feet up the door, kind of like a modified handstand. But inversions, but just bending over works and is fine. Inversions are a really good way to kind of like get out of your head. It's just one of those weird things. So doing an inversion, really good to if you're having those cravings. That's what I do, is just go in downward dog for a little bit, or go in the door jamb and put your head down. But tea is great. So I'll drink tea in the evening, because evening tends to be when is usually the hardest part for people. Evenings is when the snacking happens. Evenings is when you kind of get those like uncomfortableness with not eating or having something. So tea is really good in the evening. So most people start off strong during their day. For me, I do full glass of water in the morning. So the other part that's really important is water, staying hydrated, because you're flushing. You want to flush a lot of this stuff out. So even when we get to the second week, which is just liquids and no food, the other important part of this is pooping. Better out than in. You want to get all this stuff out. We have a lot of layers of stuff in our intestines that will eventually slough off, a lot of mucus, a lot of hardened material of eating a lot of food. We eat a lot of food and we don't eliminate it all. Even if you go every day, you're not getting rid of it all. So you'll be surprised as you stop eating food, how much more you poop. And that's because you're flushing all those juices and smoothies and those nutrients and water and tea. All of that is flushing all of that sediment, all of that built up material from eating, whether even if it's not a lot of processed foods. I don't eat a lot of processed foods, but I have, you know, it's been the holidays. I've been eating things that I don't normally eat. And just food in general, like it builds up, and you have to every so often, that's why people do cleanses seasonally, is flush those layers of sediment and film because you know what loves all that? Bacteria. Bacteria, fungi, they create what's called these biofilms, and viruses, and they love that sediment. And so part of this is flushing all that out, and you can flush out a lot of those critters too. So, okay, so we got the one meal with liquids, and so talked about, so you could even do this again, if it's cold where you are, you don't even have to do smoothies. If smoothies sound cold, you can do blended soups. You can do a blended soup and one meal a day, and bone broth if you like. And so the meals that you're choosing, you want to be mostly plant-based. So we're cutting out. So again, you can do this a lot of different ways, but no meat, no actual meat. The bone broth, you're just absorbing. But meat takes a lot of energy to digest. So we're eliminating any kind of meat or dairy from the diet. It's from the meal that you're going to have. Dairy, of course, is inflammatory and hard to digest. So we want to do just plants to really be efficient in our digestion and what we're digesting. So, you know, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, you can do. And then I have in the guide, so some examples of what you want to do. Generally also, as you start, you're probably going to want to eat a lot in the beginning for your one meal. So because you're not snacking, say you want a meal, but then you also want some hummus, you know, and crackers or vegetable or something like that. You're going to eat that all together. You're not going to have, you know, your meal and then a couple hours later as a little snack, some hummus and carrots or something. No. You got to eat it all together in one sitting. And again, because we're just going to digest everything at once. Once that meal's finished digesting, it's all just liquids. So I have some examples. So again, in the beginning, when you're starting this, you might want to do like rice and bean bowls with vegetables, a little heartier. And as that week goes on, maybe you go down to just like salads. And as you have that one meal with liquids, as that week goes on, your body learns, oh, I'm just having this one meal. And you get less hungry. Again, hunger is mostly habit of when we normally eat. So yes, coffee is okay. You can do coffee the first week for those of you that are coffee drinkers. And again, this cleanse meets you wherever you are. So if you're normally really good at your diet and what you're eating, I want you to push yourself to be a little better. You know, cut out those things you know you need to cut out. Cut down those calories and really add in the nutrients. If you're a coffee drinker and everything else is good, maybe stop the coffee. But if this is new and you've never done this before, maybe just having that meal and doing the liquids and keeping the coffee is enough. So figure out where it is that you want to focus on. Eventually, week 2, you do want to cut out the coffee. You want to cut out any kind of stimulant. When you're going down just to the liquids, you do want to cut out the coffee. So maybe there's a way you can slow it down a little or cut it out maybe midway through that week so you can kind of work on certain things. Or if you feel like you just can't do it, then you don't have to. But also think about where you are and what's best for you. If you're used to having really meat heavy meals or processed food meals or going out to eat a lot and just having that one meal a day is going to be a lot for you, then don't deal with that. Just deal with what you can control, because any little bit will be better. Sometimes you don't want to make a 10% shift in something, you know, you just have to take some baby steps. Either way, you will feel better. And that's the thing, is just kind of figuring out where you want to go and also why you're doing this too. So depending if you just want to get clearer with your meals, then maybe coffee's not a big deal. But if you just want to get more like in control in your habits, then maybe cutting out the coffee is a good thing, because coffee is I mean, it's a stimulant, as is meat. Meat is a stimulant as well, which is why people get very connected and needing it, because as you eat meat, it does stimulate you, is stimulatory. So the other part of this is, as the days go on, figure out, what am I craving? What are those foods that you're like thinking about, that you're missing, or that you're like, once this is over, you know what I'm going to eat? Think about those, and why. Why are you thinking about those? Is it something that your body needs? Is it cravings? Is it rooted in fungus and bacteria? Possibly, because a lot of times when you have these biofilms, it's the bacteria that's like, especially Candida, that wants the sugar, wants the sugar, wants the sugar. It's not you. It's these bugs that we have that are wanting these things. As these things start to flush away, then the cravings can go away as well. So just interesting to note those things every day. Sort of, what are you thinking about? What are you feeling? And think about why. Is it a habit? Is it something that is something else driving those cravings? Yeah, sugar, cupcakes, all of that is very real. And again, some of it's habit, just pure habit. After you eat at dinner, you go into the freezer and want ice cream. Do you really want ice cream? Or is it just that habit? It's the same with smoking cigarettes. After a meal, you have a cigarette. Is it the cigarette you want, or is it the ritual of what you're always doing? So if anything, these next 2 weeks is just to sort of give yourself an opportunity to switch some of these habits around. What new habits do you want to create? Because we are creatures of habit, and our eating is part of our habit. And sometimes we just have to get conscious of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to add these things into my diet. This is an opportunity these next 2 weeks where I really want to add more herbs. I really want to add more greens. I want to add more pigments, whatever it is, or just not much food at all, and going more liquid and with the blended soups and bone broth and things like that. It just depends on you. Or is it just the volume of food that you want to decrease? So everyone's going to be, just like every person is different, every diet is going to be different. There's no real ascribed way to do this. Just what is it that you want to do with this cleanse? But overall, 1 meal a day, so you're not digesting all day, and the rest liquid. So whatever liquids you want. And again, I have some examples in the guide of juices, smoothies, things like that. So yeah, so in the beginning, again, you can start with heavier meals. And then as the week goes on, try and get those calories down, because it's going to be harder to cut that meal out and go just liquids, right? So by the end of that week, hopefully you're just doing some salads. Like today, I had a salad, but I did put some rice in the salad, and I had made this 2 salad dressings. So the salad dressing on the guide is actually really, really good. So salad dressings are a really good way to pack a lot of nutrients in. So I'll use olive oil, lemon juice, really good for stripping away a lot of gunk out of your system. I put fresh dill in there. Dill, again, really great, powerful herb. You can add some garlic in there. Tahini is like amazing, full of natural calcium. It's a seed. So just pouring that on your salad is really supercharging your meal. So I had that, but then I also made a separate dressing that was just an avocado with some water and fresh lime and a little sea salt. Blend that up because my avocados are going bad. So this is like a nice way to like preserve your avocado. I put some of that on the rice. Then I had my lettuce, and then I put the dill dressing on the lettuce. I had sprouts, and then I made the sweet potatoes I just dice up sweet potatoes, bake them with a little cinnamon and sea salt and some olive oil, put that on my salad. I bake some tofu, and I use that 5-spice Chinese herb. So that's got like hardcore like clove and cinnamon and some other really hardcore herbs that are really good for bugs like parasites and bacteria and stuff. Bake the tofu with a little coconut aminos. That way you can keep it in the fridge. So you've got like your stuff. The garbanzo beans, those are great if you haven't tried those. Bake the garbanzos with like nutritional yeast and some other really like turmeric and garlic powder. And you've got all these powerful herbs in the garbanzo beans. Bake them for 20 minutes. They're like croutons. Put those on your salad. So what you're doing is you're stacking your salad, stacking your meal with tons of nutrients, things that are really going to boost your nutrition. So you're not just eating a salad with salad dressing. What ways can I really supercharge the salad? You can take a head of cilantro or parsley or mint or basil, chop it up, put it in a container, sprinkle it. Same with green onion. I chop those up. Any opportunity to supercharge your meal. How can I add more? You can bake some mushrooms too. Put that on your salad. Just start thinking of way, or if you're doing a bean and rice bowl instead of salad, same thing. Add the tofu, add the sweet potatoes, whatever it is, or you can do some grilled baked vegetables. Put those on. So that way you've always got stuff to pull out and use for your meal. Okay. Types of juices. So if you don't have a juicer, really the only juice I recommend is Suja, S-U-J-A. And the reason why is because they're cold pressed, as is pressed juicery, but they're also organic. Pressed juicery is not. Why is organic so important? Because of the pesticides, because of the glyphosate. Glyphosate is so dangerous. We need to avoid it at all costs. And so any produce that is not organic likely has glyphosate, Roundup in it, which is a known carcinogen. It will damage all your DNA, your tissue. So really important to avoid it. So Suja is organic as well as cold pressed. And you want cold pressed because you want the enzymes. The enzymes, the live enzymes of the food is what gives you life. If you don't have the enzymes, there's really no point in eating a vegetable. It's just dead material. It's just dead calories at that point. It's lost its magic. Now, if you do have a juicer, pull it out. And if you don't have a juicer and you wanted to get a juicer, go on Facebook Marketplace, go on eBay. People sell their juicers all the time for cheap. And I think even I had another friend reach out to me and found on Amazon they had a sale on their Omegas, which is a really good juicer, but you can get them really cheap right now. I think because it's the new year. Keep it simple. Just cut up. So for me, my green juice, I honestly rarely use kale or any of those leafy greens. My greens, my go-to greens are mint and basil. Sometimes it's the spring basil. A lot of times I do the Thai basil. Basil goes really well with grapefruit, which citruses this time of year in the winter are really good. So I do some pink grapefruit with some basil and add a cucumber or celery, which is green. So I'll add whatever I have on hand. You can add an orange in there too, so another citrus. So there's some really nice citruses. So I've been using blood oranges. Also the Caracara oranges are really close to the blood orange. And blood orange are those deep red oranges, and it has that deep pigment. So those pigments are so powerful for our body. So adding those carotenoids to our body by juicing them. Or you can just take, I love pineapple. That's what I'm, one of my favorites. So I'll do pineapple, cucumber or celery or both. and a whole head of mint. And that's it. Sometimes the other thing I really like is fennel. Fennel has that licorice taste, but fennel, another one, it works on the shikimate pathway, really good for repairing our body, protecting our body. Shikimate pathway and fennel especially, and blood orange actually has the hesperidin, blocks viruses from attaching into our mucous membranes. So I try to have a little fennel a couple times a week. So another good match for fennel is apples. So apple and fennel go really well together. And then just add some celery or cucumber. I mean, I love cucumber. Cucumber just flushes all that mucus out of your system. And celery. Celery has really good natural salts as well that your cells need. So you can't really go wrong with either of them. And it'll make your juice green. So some mint, some fennel, and some cucumber and some celery, and then either add pineapple or apple or grapefruit, whatever you've got. The other nice thing this time of year that I've been using is pomegranates. They're a little harder because you got to crack them open and then get all the little seeds out. They're not as easy as like a pineapple or a grapefruit, but well worth your effort because pomegranates are like a sponge or a bottle brush cleaning your arteries out. Pomegranates are very astringent, and so they're pulling and scraping all that stuff out of your cells and your body. Yes. So I've been going to Costco and buying a container of pomegranates, and I just, so pomegranates go really well with mint. So I'll do an entire bunch of mint in the juicer with 2 pomegranates, a lime. It goes really well with lime. And then either some cucumber. Sometimes I'll do a blood orange. Pomegranates go well with citrus as well. So I'll do an orange or some celery, whatever. The other nice thing with pomegranates is when you juice it, you get a lot of juice. So sometimes you put stuff through and you got to put a lot in, and you just have a little bit of juice. Pomegranates, you put one in, it's like, it just fills up your whole container. And again, astringent, really good for your body, really good for the heart, good for your circulation. So, but just keep it simple. You don't have to go crazy, or you can do a kitchen sink juice, and just kind of throw a bunch of stuff in there. But I have some examples in the guide of fruits to use. So, yeah, and then smoothies. So smoothies, which is nice, is you can make ahead of time. So my favorite is the chocolate milk. So I buy the raw cacao powder, not cocoa powder, the Dutch processed, raw cacao powder. It hasn't been heated. It hasn't been stripped at all of its minerals. So raw cacao, super high in magnesium and minerals. It really was considered it's an ancient food that was considered sacred, very heart opening. It has a chemical in there that is really good for the heart. And so, I mean, and it's chocolate. I mean, how much better is that? So I'll make some and just keep it in the fridge. And if I'm having like a chocolate craving or a sweet craving, and I have that in the guide, very simple, just some nut milk, couple spoonfuls of raw cacao powder, and then I use raw honey. Honey is a food. Honey is antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal. Honey does not go bad. Honey is not just a sweetener. It's not just sugar. Honey is a food. Honey is nourishing. Honey is good for your liver. It's good for a lot of things in your body. So I'll add some honey to that and then a little splash of vanilla. You don't have to. Then I'll add see, this is where you can get crazy. You can add some hemp seed to it. I like to add some maca powder to it, really good for hormone balance. You can add some cardamom to it. See, and this is where you can get you can add peanut butter or almond butter. If you want to make it more filling, you could add a frozen banana. I mean, so again, this is where all the options come with really turbocharging your smoothies. Same thing with fruit smoothies. So you can have a basic fruit smoothie, but then again, you can add nut butter, you can add turmeric, you can add different spices to it. Hemp seed is always really good. Hemp seed has one of the highest levels of protein of any food, including animals, because again, animals, they might have a lot of protein, but we're not a chicken or a cow. So we have to break that protein down into amino acids and reassemble them into a protein that we can use. So once all that's said and done, the amount of protein isn't as much. But with plants, they're just amino acids. So all we have to do is absorb them. So hemp seed has a ton of protein, usable protein. So if you're concerned with that, even though honestly, I've never really met many people, if any, that are protein deficient unless they've got some kind of chronic wasting disease. So rather than focusing on the protein, I think focus on the nutrients. The nutrients really important, and most of us are malnourished because of our nutrient deficiencies. And then as far as the nut milk, I make my own. It's pretty easy, but if you are not in that headspace yet, I would just focus on organic. So the thing is, a lot of people love oat milk. If you do oats, it has to be organic. Oats are highly sprayed. And again, we need to get the glyphosate, the Roundup, out of our diets. It has to. So this is something really important. If you go out somewhere and you're getting coffee, or for me, I do like boba teas, I never get oat milk because the oat milk they have is rarely, I've never seen them use an organic oat milk, and I don't want glyphosate in my body. You can do almonds. Almond milk is good. You don't have to worry as much about the glyphosate because it's, the trees, they're not really, almonds come in trees and they're not really sprayed and they're cracked and all that stuff. So almonds are usually the safest. Almond milk is usually the safest as far as that goes. Also coconut might be harder to find. Coconut is personally my favorite, coconut and macadamia nut. Those tend to be my favorites, my go-tos. Then I do almond. Like if I go out somewhere, rarely do they have coconut. But almond is usually my first. And then soy milk is great. But again, has to be organic because soy is 99% sprayed with glyphosate. So you cannot have soy unless it's organic. So as far as milks, if you're going to go out and buy milks, again, coconut is usually your safest because again, they're not sprayed. And even if they were, you got to crack all that stuff open and it's pretty good. But a little harder to find. Almond is going to be probably your easiest best bet. And again, always try and get organic if possible. So like if you go to Costco, I think you can get the organic. Do they have organic oat? I'm not sure. I know they have organic almond, and then they have the macadamia nut milk, and coconut. But again, coconut is my go-to. I love coconut. And coconuts itself has a really good fat. I mean, so do almonds. Oats are kind of, I guess the oats taste more like milk, but nutritionally, they're not really adding a whole lot. So for me, coconut, macadamias are really good for your body, especially if you have any kind of heart problems. So, or you can make your own cashews. Just get a cup of cashews, blend it with some water. You don't even have to strain cashews. You can just blend it all up and drink it. So you could just make your own if you have a Vitamix. You need a high-speed blender. So you could do that as well. Hemp seed also, you don't have to strain. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a half a cup of hemp seed, half a cup of cashew in about 6 cups of water and just blend it. And then you've got 6 cups of nut milk, and you can use that. So, or you can do all cashew. All cashew is going to be a little creamier. All hemp is going to be a little more bitter. Hemp seeds can be a little bitter. So if you mix the two, you get, it's still creamy and delicious, but you get a little more nutrition in there. So or you could do all cashew and then add the hemp seed into other ones. So, almond milk make you bloated? No, unless you have a problem with almonds. But almond milk shouldn't make you bloated unless you have an intolerance to almonds. But almonds tend to be a more tolerable nut to have. But if you find that it makes you bloated, it might be some of the additives in the almond milk that make you bloated. That could be the other part of it. But the almonds shouldn't. I know there's a big talk about lectins and things like that, but you know, you need a certain amount of that stuff to some of that stuff's actually good for you. You need a little bit. Yeah, and the carrageenans can add up. But again, it's looking at the whole picture. If that's the one part that you need to do and you're doing all the other parts, I wouldn't worry about it. But if you have room to make your own milk and really dial it in, then do that, you know, because we could get really crazy about this stuff too. So that's why it's important to see, like, what is it that you want to do first? Is it just dialing in the food? Is it having more energy? Is it kind of getting away from thinking about food all the time? So figure that out. And then maybe the answer is making your own milk at home, you know, and then, you know, you got nothing. You don't have any of that junk added in there. So, and the thing with smoothies that's nice, as with the juices, is you make ahead of time. So I have a day where I make a bunch of juices and I'm good for days. I put them in the big mason jars. I keep them in the fridge. Same with smoothies. Smoothies, you can make a couple ahead of time, keep it in the fridge. And then if you're going somewhere, going to work or going out, or you're having a craving, you have one in there and you don't have to think about it. So I'll make a couple and just keep them in the fridge. And that way I can just pull them out and not have to. I don't want to be in a place where I'm like, I'm hungry, and because this is the other thing that's going to happen. Your mind is going to play some tricks on you. Your mind is going to be like, well, you don't need to do this. This is all BS. Like, I actually need to eat food. I'm getting lightheaded. I'm feeling this or feeling that. I need food. It's going to play all these little tricks on you, and just wait it out. None of it's real. This is just like, it's just your mind. And again, that's where you go do an inversion and you grab some tea. And the other thing, take a nap. So the other part of this is you might get tired because you're sloughing off a lot of junk. And sometimes that junk can float around in your body as it's getting flushed out and make you tired. So just take a nap or just lay down. Just lay down for a little bit. Really important. Just listen to your body. This is 2 weeks of just really paying attention to your body, giving your body what it needs. And if you need to rest, rest. You'll have other times where your energy is like through the roof and you feel wonderful and you'll be amazed that you don't even need food. You'll get to a point at the end of this where you're like, why do I even eat? I don't even need food. Like, food is such a distraction. But in the beginning, it can be a little hard and you just want to listen to your body. And even when you do, even at the end, when you're not doing food and you're really at that point where you're just purging a lot of that junk out of your body, yeah, you may need to nap. And that's, you know, give your body that rest. So let's see. All right, tea. Talked about tea a little bit. Use up all those teas in your cabinet, you know, use all that special tea that you've been saving, whatever, pull it out, make a bunch. That's water, you know, drink it. You're adding herbs into your body. I mean, herbs, I mean, you think about other cultures and cultures from hundreds of years ago. What did they mostly live on? Tea. Tea is, I mean, that's how you can get all your nutrients, is just by drinking tea. So So tea is a very important part of this. Again, great for cravings. You can just put fresh herbs in there too. If you don't want to buy tea bags, you can brew ahead of time. And also water. Did I mention? Oh yeah, I think I mentioned it at the end. So talked about that, rest. Yep. And again, you will be hungry. Also, the other thing, if you're hungry, drink more water, flush it out. On top of that, bowel movements. We got to talk about bowel movements. Some people will be pooping like crazy. Others will feel stopped up. And it just kind of depends. And one day might be different than the other. One day you might be like pooping like crazy, and then the next day it kind of stops. But the point is, get it out. Better out than in. So if you stop going, so even if you have a little diarrhea, that's actually normal. You're getting all the gunk out. Get it out. But if you stop, I recommend taking some magnesium to get the bowels moving, because you want everything moving. You want to purge all this stuff out. Better out than in. So really important. Resting, drinking lots of water, and pooping. Just getting all that stuff out. Very important. And I talked about eating all your food in one sitting, no snacking, not even fruit, giving the digestive system a rest. And being intentional about what you're eating. So what is that one meal going to be? Don't just grab something. And that's why I have some examples in the guides, and having some stuff in the fridge. You've got your lettuce, make some sweet potatoes, some garbanzo beans, some tofu, some vegetables, whatever it is, have it so you can kind of build something really satisfying for you. And figure out what time that is. Like for me, 2 p.m. is kind of my sweet spot. I can usually go most of the morning through noon, no problem. 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock is when I kind of like, okay, I need to eat some food. And if I eat a good, decent meal that's satisfying, I'm usually good till the evening. And then in the evening, if I get a little hungry, that's when I do the tea. Get the tea out, start drinking tea. And that's usually good for me. So, but figure out what time works for you. Regardless what time works for you, do not eat 3 hours before bedtime. So that meal needs to be 3 hours before you go to sleep, because you don't want to be digesting while you're sleeping. So that's one thing. It cannot be then. Okay, yeah, better out than in. You might need some magnesium to keep the bowels moving. Even when you cut out the meals, you will still be pooping. You still have to get everything moving. You will, even people that don't eat very much, you still need to have those bowels going. And then exercise. So you can still exercise during all of this. If you're still very active and you're exercising and doing a lot, just have more smoothies. More smoothies or more juices to keep that calorie energy up. If you're not moving as much, then, you know, maybe you don't feel like you need as much, but you can absolutely do this and train and be active and exercise. Actually, you want to be still doing some kind of exercise, but if you're doing like strenuous exercise, just make sure you have a smoothie ready for you so that you can fuel your body back up. And then water. So water, really, really important. Important to stay hydrated. Usually first thing in the morning, you want to drink a lot of water. Throughout the day, drink a lot of water. We want to flush all this stuff out. Now, important to have good quality water. I drink reverse osmosis water, which is great because it pulls all the stuff out, but including minerals. So I put my minerals back in. So I use the Quinton. It's that French water. I just put a little bit in my water. The other thing you can do is put sea salt in your water, which sounds weird because we have this idea that salt is bad, but you need salt to get the water into the cells, to hydrate the cells. If you don't have any salt in your water, that water is just going to go straight through you. We want the water to go into the cell. And so about a teaspoon of water, of salt into your water, start there. Now it has to be good quality salt, sea salt that has not been dried, so all and extracted of all the minerals. So like a Celtic sea salt, Icelandic sea salt. There's the Mackay sea salt here in Kona that I use. So Himalayan sea salt, the pink salt is good. So use about a spoonful in your water bottle. It might be a little weird at first. You can start with a pinch just to kind of get used to the taste. It'll be like, oh, salty water. But if you think about it, when people are dehydrated in the hospital, what do we give them? Saline. We don't give them pure water. When you do experiments in the lab, what do you use? Saline. Cells do not live in pure water. You need salt in it. Every cell needs salt to live. If you're just drinking plain water without salt, that's why you drink a bottle of water and you're going to the bathroom, because you did not absorb any of that water. It's great to flush. You can flush a lot of stuff out. But if you want to keep your cells hydrated, especially when we're cleansing, you need the salt. So really important to keep hydrated with some type of natural Celtic sea salt in your water. And you'll be amazed, you'll actually be less thirsty. Because a lot of times they see people and they're just drinking all this water, all this water, all this. Oh, I drink all this water. I drink a gallon of water a day. And what's happening is they're just not absorbing any of it. Once you put some salt water in there, all of a sudden you actually feel hydrated. Your cells feel hydrated. Yeah, so volcanic waters are good. So I actually also recommend like Fiji. Fiji water is good. What's the other one? The French one with an E. I'm totally blanking, but that water is good. Hawaii, yeah, Evian. And also there's like Hawaiian waters here that are volcanic, are good, but just be mindful of really making sure you stay hydrated. And that's the other nice thing with the tea. If you get sick of the water, pull out the tea. Coconut water as well is another good option. And especially if you are doing like bone broths, those can be salty and you might need some more plain water as well. So a mixture of all of that is good. So that's all the stuff I had in my notes. Hopefully the cleanse part makes a little more sense now. So we're starting with one meal for the first week, getting rid of that meal the second week and just doing liquids. And then, depending how you're feeling, you can maybe do a water fast, maybe one day of just water, just to try it out and see how you do. So, all right, I'm going to open it up for any other questions. Is there, let me look in the chat. Is that clear as mud for everyone? Does it seem doable?
For me as the newbie, it seems extremely daunting, although I do have a lot of the ingredients that you talked about, like right there in the kitchen.
What part sounds, what's the most daunting?
I just don't, right now in this moment, I'm kind of full. So, and I do intermittent fasting. So I usually don't eat until like 11:30 or noon or whatever on any
Okay.
given day. But I just do not see myself being able to even remotely go through the day with one meal. But
When
then
do you usually eat? So you eat around 11?
so yeah, so like I eat around 11, let's say, like I sometimes a little bit later, and then I'm okay. And then at 2, And then oftentimes, oh, hello. Hi. So cute. And oftentimes, 5 o'clock or 5:30, I am famished and I have to eat. So that's usually the cadence. It's like I'm eating a lot at those times. And then if I've had my fill, then I'm pretty much good. And I really don't usually eat after like 8 o'clock is very late for me usually. Like I try and finish around 7 or 7:30.
What do you normally eat at 11?
You don't want to know. It's not really the right thing to eat. I got into a cadence last year that I haven't broken. I'm so embarrassed about it that I'm not going to tell you what it is. What I will tell you is what I'm moving toward, which is, the German bread that has no yeast in it.
Mm.
It's what's the name of it? Doppelmayr or something like that. It's like those blocks of bread, and it's yeast free, and it's like a spelt.
Uh-huh.
Would have that with egg and like some spinach, which is what I used to have when I was doing well. That's what I would have like in, the morning or for brunch or whatever. And I'm trying to get back to that. But my problem is also I have a thyroid issue, and I found if I'm not having any wheat of any kind, I get dizzy. So I don't even know why that is. I just know that I was getting dizzy without, and I'm also on, I don't want to take up, I don't want to enterprise all the, by the way. But I'm also on a medication. I think I might have told you, Nancy. So because of that, that medication makes you a little bit more dizzy. But I think that like not eating wheat for whatever reason, it just, if I'm not eating some kind of wheat, even if I'm having like a rice cracker, it's not the same as a piece of wheat. I don't know why. It's just, I can't bear the thought of not having some kind of wheat. I wish I could break that spell.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't been able to do.
So what you might think about is starting the morning with juice and then having a smoothie and see if you can't push back that 11 a.m. time. Because normally what happens is we are hungry because our bodies need nutrients. And once you give the body nutrients, you're no longer hungry.
Okay.
So
I forgot to tell you, I'm sorry, you should just know that I start every single morning with hot lemon water.
yeah.
And I put collagen powder in it, and I have the Nutri-C. It's called like the omegas.
But you need what I mean
Yeah.
by nutrients is you need plants, you need chlorophyll, you need carotenoids, you need polyphenols, you need flavonoids, all of those things from plants. So when you juice the plants, so the thing with juicing is you're taking 4 pounds of vegetables and putting it in a glass. So you're not eating 4 pounds of vegetables, you're drinking it. And because you've extracted the fiber, the insoluble fiber, it still has soluble fiber, but because you've extracted the insoluble fiber, your body is able to just absorb all of those nutrients from 4 pounds of fruits and vegetables. And so it becomes medicine at that point. It becomes something that transforms your body and every cell in your body. So whether you've got thyroid issues or whatever, but like a lot of times that's why we're hungry and we're wanting to eat things is because our bodies need nourishment. So you can still do the lemon water in the morning and whatever you have, but around that, maybe around 10 a.m. or something, have a big glass of green juice. You can start with suja, unless you want to juice it. You can juice on your own too.
I'm really good. Yeah, I'm really good at juicing on my own. Like I do all the juice, the cucumber and the celery and the cilantro and all of that. Like I'm good with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they have suja here in Canada, honestly, but I'm gonna check it out. They do, or
I don't know. That's a good question.
I'm gonna check it out. But yeah, I can do that
Try
smoothly.
the juice mid-morning and see
Okay.
if you need to eat that 11 a.m. meal. And
Okay.
then if you don't, or maybe you're thinking about it, try doing a smoothie or even a blended soup. Can you do a blended soup that you can drink, because obviously we're trying to, I would try and keep your one meal. So if then you eat again at 5, see if you can bring it down to like 3:30-ish. So if you can make it to 3:30 with a juice and a blended soup, and even maybe another juice or something to get through so you're not having that meal, then have a meal, your one meal at around 3:30-ish.
Yeah. Okay, I have an idea actually, like, because I've never done I've never done this before in my entire life. I have an idea from what you're saying is that what if I was to start with the juices and the smoothies, and one of my regular meals that's completely off this. But at least if I start like that, like gradual, you know what I
Even
mean?
if
Like,
you kept the same meal, whatever meal you
yeah,
normally have, like you don't even alter what you normally eat.
exactly,
Eat
exactly.
one, yes.
Yes, exactly. And everything around it is like what you put. It's like the juice or the smoothie or whatever, all
Yeah,
of that. I think that if I eased into it that way, I might
yes,
be successful, because all of it for me is like, how can I be successful? Because I'll just get so
yes.
disappointed in myself if I can't. So I might as well
And
start
that's
with,
why I say like it has to meet you where you are, you
yeah,
know? It
yeah.
doesn't have to be one meal at this time and like because we're all different, And so I think you can get away. I think you can do the one meal, but you just have to mentally prepare around that, with either the blended soups or a smooth, I'm just saying blended soup in case, because I know it's cold where you are, maybe a smoothie doesn't sound good because it's too cold. But
No,
you
would
could
it
do,
be good because I can do the teas that you talked about. Like
yeah,
I have a lot of loose tea. I'm thinking like what Ingrid said is the bergamot. I'm gonna check into that and see if I could find that. I mean, they've got some really amazing tea houses here. Like
yeah.
get loose teas like no problem. So I have
This
my
is the
lady
time
that
to
I
get
go to
into
that
it.
she's got like all these like amazing loose teas from all over the world, and it's fabulous.
And that's
So,
what I like doing is when I do these cleanses, I get really into tea. And then the rest, when I'm not doing it for whatever reason, I forget about it or I get out of the habit. So I really like these like cleanse times to like, for me, it's just, again, it's not taking out. It's really like front loading in, and like, what are these nice teas and how can I, add all these things to my body right now that it needs
yeah.
and cutting out the food. It's cutting out the food and really adding the nutrition and blended soups, smoothies, bone broths, juices. That's not what I'm considering food. That's
Yeah.
nutrients, because you're just absorbing them. Um,
I'm
yeah.
writing down hibiscus here too. Thank you
Oh
very much.
yeah. Yeah. Hibiscus is
Um,
really nice as well.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think you absolutely can get down to one meal a day. And here's the other part of doing these cleanses is shedding your beliefs of what you can do. It's really amazing how you think like, oh my God, how can I just eat one meal a day and then go to no meal a day? Like it seems impossible. But like Ingrid, you can talk about like she was in that same boat and it's like it's amazing. And she does spin every day.
Mhm.
It's just crazy.
Like
What I love about this, and I think that what you need to stress, Nancy, is that this is a very unique approach that sets people up for success by making baby steps. So by just having one meal, but like a big meal that's uh
You don't want to feel deprived.
exactly. And it's hearty, like the garbanzo beans in there and whatever maybe kind of I did the sweet potatoes, like I did the purple sweet potatoes. I'm so mad
Mhm.
I didn't take a picture of it. And another one, I love crunch, and I was gonna say I put beef broth with the bean sprouts, and it was like noodles for me, and it was
Mm.
crunchy and delicious. But it's surprising when you're not hungry at night, and that's like a huge. I was so shocked. Maybe the first night I was like, oh, and then I drank the tea and I was okay, but it was really like, I am gonna do this. Like it, and it wasn't terribly uncomfortable. And then in the morning, like again, I made a smoothie at 11. So I wasn't even hungry until 3:30
Yeah.
because it was so filling. I was like almost felt sick. It was so filling.
It is amazing. You get to a point where you're like, why did I even eat food? Like you don't even need food. You realize how much of it is up here. It's so mental. And once you just give your body the nutrients it needs,
Mhm.
um, and your energy soars. You're
So can
not,
I make a suggestion then?
what's that?
I think I make or make a suggestion is that I think I would make a little bit more prescriptive point where I know, like if you were to say, Robin, make this smoothie, like this is the smoothie that you should make day one, make yourself this tea, make your juice, make yourself this smoothie. And the next day you could change, you could like maybe a little bit more direct for the beginner, because for me, this is now swimming in my head. I looked at all amazing recipes. I'm like, okay, so which one do I do? I do the cacao, and then like I do the smoothie. When do I do this? And when should I eat this? What you just said, Ingrid, it's really exciting to think that, oh, I do this and I feel full. Wait a minute. So tomorrow was, I mean, I won't be able to start, but like, I was able to start like the day after tomorrow. What, like, what am I making? Yeah, I'm making all of things. If I'm making the garbanzo beans and the potatoes and the cauliflower on the same day, like, is that what I'm doing,
You
or am I?
can. So I would figure out like what sounds good to you. Like I make all those things and I just have them in the fridge. So
Ah,
like today I made all the
okay.
stuff. So I've got, Pyrex containers in the fridge. Everything takes 20 minutes to make. So as one thing's cooking, I'm prepping the other thing and then I put that in and then I prep and do the other thing. So it takes, I guess a couple hours all said and done. Doesn't take that. I mean, you can split it up too. You can do like a couple things one day and then a couple the next day. And then, buy your lettuce and whatever else if you're going to do salads or, I mean, I'm not a big soup person, so I don't do blended soups, but if you're a soup person and want to do your soups, you can prep all that. But I just like prepping the sweet potatoes and the tofu and the garbanzos and cauliflower and stuff before. But yeah, that way you don't have to think about it. You're prepped for the week and you can just pull it out and just
Yeah.
have that for your meal. So that's what I recommend. And then as far as the smoothies, it's just kind of whatever you lean toward. If you're more of a fruit person, like my husband likes fruity stuff. So he's always liking fruit smoothies. I'm more of a savory. I either do the chocolate or I like turmeric. I like matcha. So those are more of what I lean toward, or like a date shake. So it just kind of depends what you want. So there's a couple smoothies on there and you can either you don't have to make them ahead of time or you can, but you can just kind of see how you feel. I mean, it only takes a minute to make a smoothie. But yeah, but the reason I don't make it so prescriptive is because everyone's different, like some people like more fruity stuff. Some people don't. Some people are more soup people, other people are more salad people. Um, and everyone's going to have different, and also this is free. So this is just,
That's very true. Gotcha.